Namaste, let's go live on another bicycle live stream on Sunday the 15th of November at 6:40 a.m. I've ridden 36 kilometres, it is 23 degrees, and let's have a nice controversial topic this morning. Using sex to heal trauma doesn't work. Or, put it another way, healing trauma with sex doesn't work. And here's a controversial bit. What I learnt from visiting brothels. Oh gosh, did Harry Bolman used to visit brothels? Well, let me tell you a little story. Way back in the 1980s, I used to visit brothels, but not for the reason you think. I was not the least bit interested in going there for sex. I was actually doing part-time work at night delivering pizzas, and some of our customers were the working girls at various different brothels in the middle part of the Gold Coast. Most or all of which no longer exist, but there were a few in Mermaid and Surface, Sorrento in those days, and so I got the opportunity to deliver pizzas to the working girls. In addition to which, my brother in a long distant path lived with a couple of working girls. So I got to see what the behaviours of these working girls were. And one of the things that struck me was a few different things that struck me, but one of the things that struck me was how obviously unhappy and really not in a good emotional nor physical way that these working girls usually appeared. I mean, I would deliver pizzas to them and I think, wow, they don't look like they're living a very wholesome life. And obviously they weren't. They looked like they were drug users and probably alcoholics, etc. And it just gave me a tiniest little glimpse at that stage in my 20s, tiniest little glimpse of that industry. Now, that's something that's sort of stuck with me, that sort of ties in with this morning's topic. And the reason why I started thinking about this, that how using sex to heal trauma doesn't work, is it came up because of a few different things, and it's something that I've observed in friends, people over the years. But what came up was this month, November, marks 5 years. So it was 5 years almost to the day actually with this live stream, but it was November 2015 was the end of my last, I would call, proper relationship. So, not all the friendships that I've had since then and or any of the dating that I've done since then, but the end of my last proper relationship. And looking back, I've got to say, that was 5 years ago now, I've got to say I was relieved when it ended. It was, I won't go into it too much in respect of the victims, but it was, see what I said there, in respect of the victims, but it was, let's just say, the way that my girlfriend ended it was a very good indication of how she could be, and I think I dodged a bullet on that one. I got out of that one. So yeah, and it's one of those relationships that ended, and I did not miss much about it. So anyway, so that means since then, in that 5 years since then, I have been living with the health and spiritual benefits of abstinence. So I haven't been using sex to heal trauma. But and I look around, and what that does actually, I'll just go on a slight different tangent here. What that does when you're not functioning from that perspective, it gives you an insight, a clarity to other people's behavior. And so I can look at other people's behavior and see how obvious it is that that people use sex to heal trauma. So one of the things that I've observed is that it may not be consciously happening, and probably for a lot of people, it's not consciously. It's not a conscious procedure. It's a subconscious procedure that's come from traumatic patterns, subconsciously held on to, and there is a need to process them. But what people don't realize, what someone doesn't realize, is that they're attracting a certain energetic pattern in order to process their trauma. And so they're attracting a certain sort of a person, they're attracting a certain sort of a situation, and they have this incredible need to heal. And they want to get close to someone, they want to experience, they want to feel, but because of the subconscious patterns we carry, if we attract someone and we ourselves are somewhat broken in the first place, the person we attract is going to be a mirror match for our energetic pattern, and therefore are themselves going to be broken. It's just how it works. It's not rocket science. And we are going to set up a very, dysfunctional connection is the best word. And then if we incorporate sex into it, then the dysfunctionality gets, increases. Now, there's something very, very important to think about here and to keep in your mind here. And this is that there is a vast difference between pleasure of your mind and body and actual happiness. They are not the same thing. And this is where the problems come in. Because a lot of people think that by satisfying the body and the mind, by having this stimulation, that they will then find the happiness that they're not finding because of the traumatic experiences that are just below the surface that they're carrying with them. And it's, again, when you look at it sort of from a detached point of view, it's sort of a logical understanding that the trauma that we carry just below the surface cannot, under any circumstances, be healed through sensual gratification. It just can't. It's just not possible. It's a different thing. It's not the happiness we're looking for. It's just a different thing. So, let's go back to what I was saying there a minute ago, because we need to keep that in mind, that there is a vast difference between pleasure of the mind and body, which is temporary, is fleeting, and it's material. There's a vast difference between it and actual happiness, true happiness. They're not the same thing. And if we go using one to try and find the other, we are setting ourselves up to fail. We are creating a situation which will generate more dysfunction. And with that in mind, we need to have that degree of responsibility to not only to others, but a degree of responsibility to ourselves. We need to be brutally honest with ourselves. We need to stop, look at our connections, look at our friendships, our relationships, our hookups, whatever it is that you're having, and have a look at why there is this very desperate, and I use the word desperate intentionally, this very desperate need to connect physically with someone in order to solve a problem. Now, subconsciously, that is what's happening, but consciously you're deluding yourself if you think that the reason you're connecting is because you love the person, or because you think that's where happiness will come from. Happiness will not come from there. You'll get temporary sense gratification at best. So we live in a world of dysfunctional people connecting dysfunctionally with other dysfunctional people, and the end result is a lot of social misery. It's very sad to see, and because I've been following a path of abstinence for 5 years now, it becomes as plain as day when you're not caught in the cycle, when you're not playing the game and you're removed from it and you just become the observer and you watch other people doing it. You just go, wow. It's like watching birds fluffing up their feathers to attract their mates. And, people are no different. And it starts early, it starts young in the playground. When kids are sort of wanting to attract the opposite sex. And, as adults, when you look at the behaviour or the behavioural patterns, you see just an extension of what the kids do when they're young, wanting to get that attention. Morning, Robert. Thank you for watching. And keep your chin up as well. So yeah, it's fascinating to watch. But at the bottom of it all, let me just wind up by saying, at the end of it all, when you remove yourself from that sequencing, from the need to use sex to heal trauma, you give yourself the opportunity to face what you've been running from, and the opportunity to understand the depth of it, and basically what you're up against. And hopefully, in amongst all that, you come back to the core truth, which is that everyone needs to love and be loved. And we're talking love, not sex, we're talking love. Complete different thing. Remember, and I'll go out on this note one more time, I'll say it. There is a vast difference between pleasure of your mind and body and actual happiness. They are not the same thing. Have a great Sunday, live vegan and save lives, and I'll speak to you soon. Ahimsa.